My wife started crying and begging me to take her to the hospital after her ex had a serious accident. My wife started crying and begging me to take her to the hospital after her ex had a serious accident. Please, she sobbed. I need to be there. I still love him. I remained silent. I took her. I watched her run toward him without looking back. That night, I packed my bags. She came home to an empty apartment. A note that said, "Don't worry. He can be with you now." And now she's bombarding my phone. I wasn't serious. Please come back. Me, a 34-year-old man, met Sarah, a 31-year-old woman, at a friend's birthday party 5 years ago. She was standing alone near the appetizer table, looking a bit uncomfortable, as is often the case when you don't know many people at a gathering. I offered her a beer and a terrible joke about the suspicious-looking sauce, and the way she laughed made something in my chest tremble. We talked for hours that night, and I managed to get her number before leaving. Our relationship progressed quickly after that. We had amazing chemistry. We finished each other's sentences, shared the same obscure interests, all the usual cliché. At 3 months, we were practically living together. And at 6 months, we made it official and rented a place. I should mention that Sarah had been single for about a year when we met, after breaking up with her college sweetheart Marcus, whom she had dated for nearly 7 years. It was simply time, she told me once, we grew up and apart. It happens. She didn't talk much about him, which I took as a good sign. There were no photos of him among her things or mementos that I could see. The few times his name came up in conversation, she spoke of him in a neutral way, like one would talk about a former coworker for whom you don't feel anything special. I never worried that he was the one who got away, or anything like that. 2 years into our relationship, I proposed to her. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony with close friends and family. My parents adored her. Her parents seemed to like me enough, and our circle of friends blended perfectly. We settled into married life with an ease that made me feel like the luckiest man in the world. Looking back, I can see the warning signs, though at the time I was too blinded by love to notice them. About a year into our marriage, Sarah started acting a bit strangely. Whenever we would run into mutual acquaintances who knew both her and Marcus, there was a tension in her shoulders, a forced smile. I attributed it to the discomfort anyone might feel talking about an ex. Then, last Christmas, Jen, a college friend of Sarah's, came to visit us. After a few glasses of wine, Jen started reminiscing about the good old days, and Marcus's name came up several times. I noticed how Sarah seemed to cling to every mention of him, asking questions with an intensity that seemed strange to me. "How is he doing these days?" Sarah asked, trying to appear casual. "Oh, he's doing really well," Jen replied. "He got that promotion at the architecture firm, bought that dream lakeside house he always talked about. Single, by the way, no one's topped you, I guess." She stopped abruptly, looking at me with embarrassment. Sarah quickly changed the subject, but later that evening, I caught her checking Marcus's Instagram. She quickly switched apps when she noticed I was watching. "Just curious," she said with a little laugh. "I wanted to see if he still had that horrible goatee." I let it go, but something about that incident stayed in my mind. Still, I trusted Sarah completely. We had a good marriage, we hardly ever fought, we enjoyed the same activities, and we had talked about starting a family in the near future. I told myself I was being paranoid, letting insecurity create problems where there were none. About 4 months ago, Sarah started acting differently. She became distant, often lost in thought. When I asked her what she was thinking about, she would come back to the present with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and say, "Nothing important." Our conversations became shorter, more superficial. She started working late more frequently, and when she was home, she was constantly checking her phone. I'm not proud to admit it, but one evening, while she was in the bathroom, I checked her phone. There were no suspicious messages or calls, nothing that indicated she was having an affair. In fact, her digital life seemed too clean, as if it had been wiped. This made me feel both relieved and more suspicious at the same time, which I acknowledge is irrational. During this period, I tried to reconnect with her. I arranged date nights, cooked her favorite meals, bought her small gifts. Sometimes I would glimpse the Sarah of before. She would laugh at my jokes or cuddle up against me on the couch while we watched a movie. But these moments didn't last. Eventually, she would go back to withdrawing into herself, as if she was constantly distracted by something she couldn't share with me. One evening, over dinner, I finally confronted her. "Sarah, what's going on? And please don't say nothing. I know something's bothering you." She looked up from her plate where she was pushing pasta around without eating, with an expression between guilt and surprise. "It's just work stress," she said, but her eyes looked elsewhere. "Is it about us? Aren't you happy in our marriage?" "No, of course not," she replied quickly. "You're perfect. Our marriage is perfect." But the way she said it turned my stomach. It sounded rehearsed, as if she was trying to convince herself more than me. "Is there someone else?" I finally asked the question I feared the most. "God, no," she said, reaching for my hand on the table. "I would never betray you. I love you. It's just, I have a lot on my mind with work and family stuff. I promise I'll be myself again soon." I believed her, or at least I wanted to believe her. But something still felt wrong. The night that changed everything started like any other. Sarah was working late again, and I was at home preparing dinner, her favorite lasagna, hoping to have a nice evening together when she got back. I had just put the garlic bread in the oven when her phone rang. She had left it on the counter before leaving that morning, which was unusual. Sarah usually carried her phone as if it were an extension of her hand. I looked at the screen and saw it was Jen calling. I answered, thinking it might be important. "Hello, Sarah's phone," I said. There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, hi, it's Jen. Is Sarah there?" "She's at work. Do you want her to call you back later?" Another pause. "Actually, I thought she was with you. We were supposed to meet for coffee 2 hours ago, but she never showed up. I've called and messaged." My hand tightened around the phone. "She told me she'd be working late tonight." "Oh." Jen's voice sounded small. Maybe I got the day wrong, but by her tone, I knew that wasn't the case. After hanging up, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, staring into space. Why would Sarah lie about working late? If she wasn't at work or with Jen, where was she? I tried calling her, but went straight to voicemail. I sent a message asking her to call me, trying to sound casual. Then I sat at the dining table, with the lasagna cooling and forgotten, and waited. She came home around 9 p.m. with her hair disheveled and looking tired. Her eyes opened a bit wider when she saw me sitting at the table in the dark. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" she asked, turning on the light. "Where were you, Sarah?" Her movement stopped. "At work, like I told you this morning. Jen called your phone earlier. She said you were supposed to meet for coffee, but you never showed up." Sarah's face went through several rapid expressions. Surprise, guilt, calculation, then forced calm. "I completely forgot about coffee with Jen. Work has been so busy that it slipped my mind." "Should I call her to apologize?" "So you were at work?" I insisted. "Yes, of course. Where else would I be?" I wanted to believe her, but something about her demeanor seemed off. She was too calm, her smile too fixed. "I don't know, Sarah. That's what I'm trying to figure out." She came over, wrapped her arms around my neck, and kissed me on the forehead. "You're being silly. I was at work. I forgot the appointment with Jen. End of story. Now I smell lasagna." I let it go that night, but the seed of doubt was already planted. The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I called her office and asked to speak with her. The receptionist told me that Sarah had left early the day before, around 3:00 p.m. for a personal matter. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I started paying more attention to her habits, her excuses, her increasingly elaborate explanations of her whereabouts. The woman I had trusted completely was now a mystery to me, and it was destroying me. It was on a Tuesday that everything came to a head. I was working from home, finishing some reports when Sarah called me around 2:00 p.m. with a trembling voice. "Marcus had an accident," she said without preamble. "Is it serious?" "Very serious. Can you take me to Memorial Hospital?" I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Marcus, her ex from years ago. Why was she so affected by him, and how did she know about the accident? "How did you find out?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "Jen called me," she said quickly. "Please, can you come get me? I'm at the office." I agreed, my mind racing as I drove to her work. When I picked her up, she was a mess. Mascara smeared, hands shaking as she fastened her seatbelt. "What happened to him?" I asked as I started driving. "Car accident," she said between sobs. "He was on his way to meet a client. A truck ran a red light. It hit him on the driver's side. He's in surgery now." I glanced at her out of the corner of my eye. "Jen told you all this?" "Yes, she's friends with his sister. Please drive faster," The hospital was on the other side of town, and the ride was painfully silent, except for Sarah's occasional sobs. I tried to make sense of what was happening. Why was my wife so upset about her ex-boyfriend's accident? Friend or not, her reaction seemed over the top. As we pulled into the hospital parking lot, I turned to her. Sarah, why is this affecting you so much? I know it's terrible what happened to Marcus, but… She looked at me with red eyes. Please, she sobbed. I need to be there. I still love him. The world seemed to stop. I felt like I was watching the scene from outside my body. My wife, the person I had planned to spend the rest of my life with, had just admitted that she loved another man, her ex, in the most casual and thoughtless way possible. I remained silent, unable to articulate a word. I drove her to the entrance. I watched her run into the building without even looking back. She didn't thank me. She didn't ask if I was coming in. She didn't acknowledge the bomb she had just dropped on our marriage. At that moment, I ceased to exist for her. I sat in the parking lot for what felt like hours, staring at the hospital entrance. Part of me wanted to follow her in to demand answers, but a larger part knew exactly what was happening. The pieces were falling into place. Her distant behavior, the canceled coffee with Jen, the late nights at work. Sarah was seeing Marcus again. Since when? I didn't know. Did it matter? She still loved him. She had said it with such clarity, with such honesty, that there was no room for misunderstanding. Eventually, I drove home. Our apartment now felt strange to me, as if I was walking through a stranger's life. I sat on the edge of our bed, the bed we had picked out together at IKEA, laughing as we struggled to put it together. And I made my decision. I packed my bags methodically, taking only what I needed. Clothes, personal items, important documents. I left the furniture, the appliances, most of our shared possessions. Material things seemed meaningless now. Meanwhile, memories flooded my mind. Our first date, the day we moved in together, our wedding. Had it all been a lie? Or had Sarah simply settled for me while keeping a flame for her ex? Before leaving, I wrote a brief note and left it on the kitchen counter. Don't worry. Now he can be with you. Simple, to the point. I considered writing more, pouring out my pain, my anger, my sense of betrayal. But what was the point? She had made her decision long before today. I called my friend Mike and asked if I could stay with him for a while. He didn't ask questions, just, sure, brother, with that steadiness that characterized him. Then I took one last look at the apartment that had been my home, our home, and I left, carefully closing the door behind me. That night, I turned off my phone. I wasn't ready to face whatever reaction Sarah might have. The next morning, I called my boss and explained that I needed a few personal days. Then I went to see a lawyer to talk about divorce. Everything felt unreal, as if I was watching someone else's life fall apart. When I finally turned on my phone 3 days later, there were dozens of missed calls and messages from Sarah. The first ones were of confusion. Where are you? What's going on? What did you mean by that note? Then they became desperate. Please call me. We need to talk. It's a misunderstanding. And finally pleading, I wasn't serious. Please come back. I've made a terrible mistake. I love you, not him. I read them all feeling almost nothing. The shock had passed, leaving a numb void. I didn't reply to any of her messages, but I did listen to one voicemail. Please, please call me. Her voice was heavy with tears. What I said in the car? I wasn't thinking clearly. I was only concerned about him as a friend. That's all. I don't love him. I love you. Please come home so we can talk. I'm sorry. Too little, too late. The truth had come out in a moment of emotional honesty, and no attempt to retract it could undo that. Mike let me stay at his place for 2 weeks while I found a small apartment on the other side of town. I threw myself into work, started going to the gym more often. I reconnected with friends I had neglected. On the surface, I seemed to be handling things well. Inside, it was chaos of confusion, anger, and pain. Sarah continued to call and text. She even came to my office once, but I refused to see her. She sent emails explaining that she was confused, that seeing Marcus injured had awakened past feelings that weren't real, that our marriage was what mattered to her. Each explanation felt like another betrayal, another lie. Through mutual friends, I learned that Marcus's injuries were serious, but not life-threatening. A broken leg, internal bleeding, a concussion. But he was expected to make a full recovery. I also learned that Sarah was visiting him at the hospital every day, spending hours with him. I was only concerned about him as a friend. My thought was ironic. 1 month after I left, Lily, Sarah's younger sister, contacted me. We had always had a good relationship, so I agreed to meet her for coffee. She's devastated, Lily told me, absently stirring her coffee. She knows she made a terrible mistake. In saying she loves him or in seeing him behind my back. Who knows for how long? I asked, unable to hide the resentment in my voice. Lily's eyes widened. What? No, she wasn't seeing him before the accident. Not like that. I raised an eyebrow skeptically. Seriously? She insisted. Listen, I'm not defending what she said to you. It was horrible and unforgivable. But they weren't having an affair. At least not a physical one. What does that mean? Lily sighed. They reconnected on social media about 6 months ago. At first, it was just casual, catching up. But about 2 months before the accident, they started exchanging long messages, reminiscing about the good old days. She told me because she felt guilty. Even though she hadn't done anything physical, she was confused about her feelings. She should have talked to me about it, I said coldly. I know. I told her that. She was trying to sort it out by herself first, which was stupid. Lily looked down. If it counts for anything, I think she really does love you. She just got caught up in nostalgia and what-ifs. When Marcus got hurt, she panicked, and those confused feelings surfaced. And that makes it all better? No, I just thought you should know the whole story. I thanked her for her honesty, but said my decision stood firm. Sarah had broken my trust in the most fundamental way possible. Though they hadn't been physically intimate, she had been emotionally unfaithful. And then she lied to cover it up. Some betrayals don't allow for a way back. 3 months after I left, I agreed to meet with Sarah. Not to reconcile, but to discuss division of property and separation formalities. We met at a neutral cafe, and seeing her affected me more than I had anticipated. She looked thinner, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. For a moment I felt a flash of concern, but I pushed it aside. Thank you for meeting me, she said softly when I sat across from her. I nodded, keeping a neutral expression. I thought it was time to discuss practical matters. Is that all you want to discuss? A glimmer of hope shone in her eyes. Yes, I kept my voice firm. I've initiated divorce proceedings. My lawyer will contact yours. Her face crumbled. Please don't do this. We can get through this. I made a terrible mistake, but I love you. And you're my wife, who told me she loves another man. I replied coldly. A man you were apparently in contact with for months without telling me. She paled. Lily told you? Yes, though I appreciate her honesty, unlike yours. I should have told you when Marcus contacted me. I know that now, but nothing physical happened between us. I swear. We were just talking, catching up. Emotional affairs are still affairs, Sarah. She tried to take my hand on the table, but I pulled it away. It wasn't even an emotional affair. Not really, I was confused. Yes, his messages stirred up old memories, and I got caught up in nostalgia. But I love you. What I said in the car that day, I was emotional. I wasn't thinking clearly. Those words don't reflect what I truly feel. Then why were you visiting him at the hospital every day? I asked. She seemed surprised that I knew. Because I felt responsible in a way. Like the accident happened just as all this drama was unfolding and I needed to make sure he was okay before rebuilding our marriage. I shook my head, incredulous. You rushed into that hospital without looking back. You didn't care how your words affected me. In that moment, I saw clearly where I stood in your priorities. That's not fair, she protested. I was in shock. People say things they don't mean when they're in shock. Or maybe they say exactly what they feel because they lower their guard, I retorted. Either way, I can't trust you anymore. You. Sarah. And without trust, what's left? Then she started to cry, silent tears streaming down her face. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Are you really going to throw away 5 years together for one moment of confusion? It wasn't just one moment. It was months of lies by omission, of pulling away from me, of making me feel like I was crazy for noticing something was wrong. It was the ease with which you said I still love him, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. And it was your immediate impulse to lie and cover up afterward, instead of having an honest conversation with me. We sat in silence for a moment. The weight of our broken marriage between us. Finally, I stood up. My lawyer will contact yours with the details. I think it's best if we don't meet like this anymore. And that's it? She asked with a trembling voice. You're not even willing to try to forgive me? I considered her question carefully. Some things can't be taken back, Sarah. There are some trusts that once broken don't mend. I hope you find happiness, whether it's with Marcus or someone else, but it won't be with me. As I walked away, she called after me. He means nothing to me now. I realized it as soon as you left. Please don't go. I didn't look back. That was 3 months ago. The divorce is moving forward, though Sarah has put up roadblocks. She refuses to sign the papers and keeps requesting mediation sessions where she begs for another chance. Her persistence would be touching if it weren't so frustrating. Through mutual friends, I've learned that Marcus has fully recovered and tried to rekindle something with Sarah. Apparently, she rejected his advances, telling anyone who would listen that she made the biggest mistake of her life and only wants to save her marriage. Too bad she didn't realize that before telling me she loved another man. I've been going to therapy to process all of this. Some days are better than others. I miss the life we had. Or rather, the life I thought we had. I miss the Sarah I thought I knew. But that person doesn't exist and maybe never did. The divorce is proceeding, albeit more slowly than I would like due to Sarah's resistance. Last week, I received a handwritten letter from her, not a message or an email. In it, she detailed every moment of her reconnection with Marcus, from the first innocent message to the gradual increase in their communication. She admitted feeling flattered by his attention, enjoying the nostalgia of their conversations, and being confused about her feelings. She talked about the day of the accident, how Marcus's sister called her and she panicked, and how, in that moment of fear and confusion, old feelings resurfaced. She acknowledged that what she said to me was unforgivable, but insisted it came from temporary madness, not genuine emotion. The letter ended with, I understand now what I couldn't see then. Marcus represented my past, a simpler time before adult responsibilities. I wasn't in love with him, but with the memory of who I was when we were together. But you are my true love, my present, my future. I was a fool to risk you for a ghost. I will spend the rest of my life regretting the pain I caused you, even if you don't give me another chance. But I hope with all my heart that you will. It was well written, seemed sincere, and perhaps contained a grain of truth. But as I folded it and put it away, I knew my decision hadn't changed. Some bells cannot be unrung. Some words cannot be retracted. Some trusts, once destroyed, cannot be rebuilt without leaving cracks. Sarah still calls sometimes. She still sends messages. She still hopes for reconciliation. But I've moved on, or at least I'm trying to. I've started dating casually. I'm focusing on my career and considering moving to another city for a fresh start. Life goes on, even after betrayal. If there's a lesson in all of this, perhaps it's that the most devastating betrayals don't come from calculated malice, but from thoughtless honesty. Sarah didn't plan to destroy our marriage that day in the car. She simply let slip a truth she had been hiding, perhaps even from herself, and in doing so, she revealed that our relationship had been built on quicksand, not solid rock. Or maybe the lesson is more, be careful what you say. In moments of crisis, truth tends to slip out. When emotions dominate, once spoken, some truths can never be retracted. Either way, I continue to move forward. Alone, but wiser. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this post to take off like it did. Thank you all for the comments and messages of support. To answer common questions, yes, I am certain there was no physical affair before the accident. Mutual friends confirmed this, and Sarah's sister showed me messages where she was hesitant to even write to Marcus. No, I won't change my mind about the divorce. Some suggest couples therapy, and, while I appreciate it, there are some breaches of trust too deep to repair. I haven't spoken to Marcus and don't intend to. He is irrelevant to my decision. It's about Sarah's actions and words, not his. For those saying I'm being too harsh, maybe you're right. Maybe with time I'll see things differently. But right now I can't imagine rebuilding a relationship on such fragile foundations. I deserve someone who doesn't doubt who she loves. Yes, I have the dog now. She's snoring next to me as I write this. Second edit. It's been a week since the original post. Sarah found it. A friend recognized our situation and sent it to her. At first, she was irritated that I shared something so personal, but after reading the comments, she said she better understands my perspective and the damage she caused. Finally, She'll sign the divorce papers without further delay. In a way, this has given us closure. Yesterday, we had a civilized, almost friendly conversation about dividing our belongings. It was the first time in months that we spoke without tension or tears. On my end, I've accepted a job offer in another state. A fresh start. Those cliches are sometimes true. Thank you all again. This community has helped more than you can imagine. And yes, the dog is coming with me. Did you like this story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and see you next time.